Is your car a conspiracy against you? My name's Resistance, a spellbreaker. Allow me to get your wheels turning. So, about 20 years ago, I run into an old mechanic, and he tells me a story of a mechanic way back in the day who would recognize common design flaws in the earlier makes and models of vehicles. He decides he's going to build himself a vehicle, and he's going to beef these areas of the vehicle up, use different alloys of metal, and so forth, and create a vehicle that would run in upwards of 100 years. When he goes with this idea to have it patented and things, the car companies get together and they come at him with a whole bunch of money and tell him F off. Now, I believe the story, and I can't find anything on the internet about it, which makes sense that they wouldn't want this information out there. So, for those of you that don't know, things break by design, okay? Your door is only meant to open and close a certain amount of times. The transmission's only meant to shift a certain amount of times. The engine's only meant to run a certain amount of miles. Okay, so these car manufacturers are doing this on purpose. Okay, and what happens is this has created a window for people to go into mechanics, backyard mechanics, and local mechanic shops around town. Now, on one hand, the car companies need mechanics to build their vehicles and to work at their dealerships. But on the other hand, they don't like the fact that their vehicles can be worked on rather than someone having to buy a new vehicle from them. So this is a part of the conspiracy of your vehicle, the fact that things are made to break by design, as to where in America, companies would compete with one another and they would try to build a better product. Instead, the car companies have got together and they've all decided to screw us and make their products break in a certain allotted time. So that's one thing. Another thing is the contracts, the financing, and all the little loopholes you get screwed in, the witchcraft and their paperwork that, I avoid, and you should too. So another thing that they've done isn't just made their vehicles break by design, but they've made these vehicles difficult to work on, okay? If you're somebody who's a mechanic, or if you ever talk to a mechanic, they will tell you the older the vehicle, the easier it is for them to work on. The newer the vehicle, the more difficult it is. And sometimes they will put a bolt somewhere to where the mechanic has to take apart your entire vehicle to get to one little bolt to put air in the tire. And I'm, of course, exaggerating, but they really, really, really have intentionally designed the vehicle to be difficult to work on to combat the fact that mechanics can work on vehicles. So another thing we're going to talk about is the gearing of the vehicle, okay? A lot of people don't know this. They actually gear that vehicle to use more gas than necessary. And there's actually people who make a living going around re-gearing cars and trucks so that they get better gas mileage, okay? This is an intentional design flaw, proving a connection between the car companies and the gas companies, okay? Some call it a conspiracy theory, and I call them idiots. So now that we're talking about gasoline, okay, when I was a kid, gas was yellow, now it's clear. They put all types of basically moonshine, it's ethanol alcohol, into the gas, and it's not always advertised in the pump. You'll see one that says 10% ethanol, but really all of them have it in there. So it's one way that they screw you. Some gasoline burns quicker than others, and depending on where you go, you're going to end up figuring that out quite quickly if you're paying any attention at all to your gas gauge, okay? Another thing they do with gasoline is they have a chart. Gas will be down $2.50, or it'll be like that for a while. Then they'll bump it up to $4, and it'll be there for like 2 weeks. Then they'll bump it back down to $2.90, and everyone will go, gas is down, but really gas is still up from its $2.50. You see what I'm saying? And they do that and do that and do that and do that and do that to us, and it's a little game that they play and they get away with because, people are pussies and don't do anything about it when they get picked on by billionaires. So another thing we're going to talk about is the computers. You can own your vehicle, but you're not going to ever own the program of your vehicle, because now your vehicle runs on a computer program. And unless you have way too much money, way too much time on your hands, and you're way too smart, you're never going to get around that. Now, another thing with these computers is that these computers are getting quite scary with these vehicles because they're making driverless vehicles. And the danger with a driverless vehicle is someone such as myself, not that I'm that important, or you, but basically anyone who's a less desirable member of society, if these people have access to our vehicles like this, and these are self-driving vehicles, they could obviously just oops one day and, make our vehicle go 100 miles an hour and run us into a pylon, okay? And they've already done this, by the way, to people. So having computers in your vehicles is actually, it's something that's nice to have, the luxury of it, but be weary of where that technology is headed with, them knowing where you are, and a whole different conspiracy we're not going to get into, okay? And that gets into a push to go electric with the lithium batteries that they use in these electric vehicles actually catching fire in people's houses a lot. So I think that they could probably, if they had enough control over the computer and it was an electric vehicle, they might even be able to light it on fire on purpose. So you park your vehicle in your garage, you happen to be a conspiracy loser, next thing you know, your house is on fire, and that's just your life. So another thing I want to talk about is the logos. These people give themselves away. When you look at the logos of the car companies, these are all satanic symbols. And it's easy to see that Satan's waving high at you, okay? So, the solutions. None of us are going to go in the backyard and take go-karts and lawnmowers apart like the guy in the beginning of the video, the story I told you, and create this dream vehicle that gets us away from the New World Order. But here are some ways that we can combat this, okay? Research the vehicle that you're about to buy. Make sure that it's an easy make and model to work on, because some of them are harder than others. Make sure that this vehicle is common, because you don't want to have to send out for a part and wait weeks to get it. If the vehicle is common, you can go to any local store and get the part, or to any local junkyard and pull the part yourself. Another thing I'm going to say is, I personally look for hail damage vehicles. We call them up here dimpled darlings, okay? Which means that there's body damage, but it doesn't affect the mechanics of the vehicle at all, okay? It just makes the vehicle a little bit ugly. And there's places that specialize in removing hail damage if it bothers you. Or you can do the Bondo thing and have your vehicle repainted, for right around $1,000. So whether it's hail damaged, or whether it's just body damage that got wrecked, there's places that specialize in collision damage, and having your vehicle repainted isn't, all that expensive. And you can be rolling a freaking, $60,000 vehicle for only, $4,000 or $5,000. So look for things like that. They make something now, they plug into underneath your dash, and they claim that they save you all kinds of money on gas. Now, I haven't looked into them, but they're fairly inexpensive, and I would say because they're fairly inexpensive, they're worth a shot, and I'll probably end up using one in the future, so something to look into. Another thing is watch out where you buy your vehicle at. If you go to a used car dealership, what these people did is they went to an auction, and they got the vehicle for next to nothing. They got it to their yard, they sprayed it off, and put it out on their parking lot and marked it way up. Well, there's nothing that stops you from going to those auctions. So I would say cut out the middleman, go to the auction. Okay? Go online, you go on Craigslist, you go on Marketplace, wherever the hell you are. Find a vehicle with something wrong with it. I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, well, I'm not a mechanic. Well, you got two hands, you got YouTube. Congratulations, you're a mechanic. And by the way, you can buy a mechanic set for, right around $100 for a shitty one, because unless you're rich, you're going to need it.